Every morning at London Rio, before the guests arrive, I bulletproof. Slice of grass-fed butter, upgraded MCT oil, and make the coffee. Mix it up. And that's how we do this. Time to go to work. Now, who wants some of this? Wow, and you just rolled up to, then you decided to move to LA, and then...
Then I did it for about 6 months, and then we broke up, and then I just thought, I want to get out of Colorado. And he had opened a comedy club, and I had met a bunch of comedians, and so I moved to California.
So walk us through those first 10 years of comedy, like at the Comedy Store. And then in the background, of course, all this madness is going with Kinison going up, and then and you must have seen him go down.
Because he died pretty much, he died pretty early on. So, because it's a hard thing to talk about because comedians are the coolest people on the fucking planet. I mean, they are my peeps, you know what I mean? Like, comedians are like broken toys that you just love to death. You know what I mean? Like, you ever see the movie Toy Story?
Yeah.
When all the broken toys come out of the creepy kid's room under the bed, and they're all like, got other things stuck to them. That's what comedians are,
Okay.
And so, to see people who are so clued in on how the world in some ways really works, and who are so brilliant to be destroyed by drugs, it's sad. Like, I knew a guy, I don't know if you ever knew Mitch Hedberg.
No, yeah. I've heard the name, but
Mitch Hedberg was a game changer in comedy, in my opinion. His comedy was very much like jazz. And he had made a feature film that I was an assistant director on, and he was one of my heroes. And to see someone who had the world literally by the balls to throw it away with drugs is one of the saddest things. And after he died, I was at a Starbucks, and sometimes, I don't know if they do it here, but in the States, in Starbucks, they a lot of times have like a fancy chalkboard over the cash register somewhere, and they'll put quotes from like Aristotle or really cool quotes. And after he died, I went in there, and there was a Mitch Hedberg quote, and it's like, that's how important comedy is.
Yeah,
I saw
him a few weeks before he died
in
New York
did?
City.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really tell. You couldn't tell that he was going through anything, or that he just did a fantastic show. And it just felt like he was on a roll. Like everything I've heard of him prior to that, and you just thought he was doing great.
Yeah.
Really unexpected.
Yeah.
So go ahead. You were saying. So, do drugs and comedy go together? I mean, is this a standard arc, or is it showbiz and drugs, or is it just?
Well, it's accessible, number one, because people give you drugs, Not all the time. It's not like it used to be. Like the best gig you could ever have is being Tommy Chung's opening act. Like, that's the best gig you could ever have on the planet, because then he doesn't carry it, so he just gives it to whoever is opening for him. But I think just because it's accessible and, and it depends on what kind of comedian you are, it just depends,
So the rock and roll comedians were destined for certain fates.
Yeah, not necessarily a certain fate, but they just lived life pretty hard. I mean, it's really almost a mistake to say rock and roll comedians, but I'm just trying to shortly explain to what it's like. I mean, I don't know if you guys know of a comedian named Paul Mooney.
No.
Paul Mooney was one of Richard Pryor's first writers. Paul Mooney is one of the most amazing comedians you'll ever see, and one of the most uncomfortable comedians you'll ever see. It'll make you crawl out of your skin. And he was also part of that crew. I don't think he partied like they party, because he was older than by that time, and he still now is doing comedy with 20-year-olds and still the most edgiest guy doing comedy. And everyone has their different path, but it really makes you understand when you see your friends pass away from something so frivolous as drugs, and it just is, it's a terrible thing. You know, because then you think, wow, what else could they have said, or what other connection could they have put together, you know? And the people that do comedy, I mean, what makes you, as a broken person, stand in front of people and try to entertain them just by the timbre of your voice and, you know, and an observation? I mean, what, you know, people that do that, it's, you know, they're fucked up.
And,
It takes a certain kind of
special.
person.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
special.
And
you
special.
love them like the broken toys.
Like, I remember when I first met Mitch Hedberg, I turned to my ex-husband and I said, I think that dude's autistic. You know what I mean? Because he could never really look you in the eye. I mean,